Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Magpie Circle podcast. I don't know whether we've all managed to dry out after last night's very wet and windy Medley, not the result we were looking for. Still top for the time being. We're going to talk strikers, goal scorers. We're going to assuage any worries you might have about Jim O'Brien and his recent LinkedIn announcement. Don't worry, he's still full-time for Notts County. We can tidy that one up. Got a podcast in the can this afternoon with John Bostock, which is excellent. Really, really good. John speaks very, very well. We'll be putting that one out next week. So, welcome back, Notts County's record club goal scorer, Leslie Brad. Les, good to see you again.
Hi, Paul. Good to see you as well, and thanks for inviting me on.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. And there's a little bit of a theme of goal scorers tonight. You've got Lee Hughes coming back on Sunday, not to play. He will be in the hospitality lounges. Be interested to get your thoughts as well on Macaulay Langstaff and Kedwin Scott. Questions on a few people's lips tonight on social media. Do we need to bring in reinforcements and strengthen this group of players? How concerned are you by last night's 1-1 draw? Not 3 points. Finding a way to win. Wrexham managed it. Unfortunately, we didn't, but we still stayed top. While we both now head off to FA Trophy action, Notts against Maidstone on Sunday. Your thoughts and views on last night's performance and result. What did you make of it? How big a blow is it? Not too worried. It is still a ridiculous number of games unbeaten. One defeat all season. Still in a pretty decent position, I would say. Les, what did you make of it all last night?
The game started pretty similar to Aldershot away on Saturday. I went down there, and the first 10 minutes I thought we were a little bit we were slow getting off the mark. I like to see us when we come out of the blocks, which isn't always easy. We did it at Wealdstone, went on to get 6 goals. We started slowly last night, and a great chance came up for Macca. Unfortunately, he hit the keeper. I think if we'd have put that in, then maybe we'd have gone on and got a few goals. But I had an interesting conversation with a few of their directors before the game, the Boreham Wood directors, and they were saying a lot of work had gone on behind the scenes in making sure that they were going to limit us to scoring goals. They got a lot of respect for us. They thought we were a very good side, and they thought that they put on a really tough show, and that's what they did. I know we weren't quite on it. Listening to Luke's after-match interview, he didn't think we were quite there, but you have to give them credit as well. All the teams now, they look at Notts County as being up there at the top, and they're going to do all they can to stop them scoring goals. We saw with Yeovil, they played 5-4 at the back, didn't they? And made life very, very difficult. So they weren't quite as bad as that last night, and they broke really well. It was a tough game, but we weren't quite on it. But I think you have to remember where we are. We are in the 5th tier of football, and to see, some of the games that we've played this season have been unbelievable, and to repeat that match after match after match is going to be virtually not thinkable. But to see what we've done so far, is it 18 wins, 8 draws, and 1 defeat? And you just snapped anybody's hand off for that before the start of the season.
Yeah, lots of your observations coming in now, even from Shane Walker and Northants Pie. Northants Pie goes on to say, credit to Boreham Wood for how they set up, coupled with a quite predictable pattern of play from ourselves. Paul Hawksworth says, plan B, please. James Shipley, any other season, last night's result would have been a fine one and not been a problem in a title charge. The Wrexham factor makes it feel worse than it really is. Craig Simmons need to keep perspective, of course, but worryingly, Wrexham won when they also didn't play well. Finding a way to win, yeah, there's my buzzword that I've coined off Martin O'Neill, is an art form. Duncan Comrie, good evening, everyone. We're still top, unbeaten in 18. Keep the faith. Chris Gosling, normally a big optimist. Not being a doom monger, we've been brilliant, but the squad looks like it needs options in a few positions. It's a point that one or two of the posters there have mentioned. Look, my take on last night would be, look, we weren't quite at it as we normally are. It is entirely unreasonable to expect that we win every game. And Les and I discussed this a little bit earlier today. And my two pence was, look, we were one down. And I thought we've done well 10, 15 minutes into the second half to get it back to 1-0. Good finish from Kedwin Scott. And then you would hope the momentum would shift with us. Home team, filthy night. Boreham Wood are up from London, probably set off at lunchtime. Ain't going to get back to North London till 2:30 in the morning or whatever it is. And then you kind of want to make that home advantage count. And ordinarily, I think you'd like to see the last 5 or 10 minutes, even though you've not played well, not managed to get together, that there's some form of bombardment. Fans get behind. But it was, for me, Les, a surprisingly flat finish when you kind of expect us to throw the kitchen sink at everything, irrespective of how we played for the previous 85. And you kind of also expect the fans to become emotionally involved in it. But it seemed to finish flat. And for me, that was kind of perhaps the most disappointing thing, because you need a few late wins. 89th minute, 90th minute, 91st minute wins. No matter how well you're playing, you need a few of those.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not privy to what goes on the training ground, but I think they've the boys, the squad. I hear them. I go down on a Thursday and I speak with them, and they're very, very happy with the training that goes on behind the scenes. And I think they work so hard in getting into positions to deliver balls into the box to score goals from. And I think, yes, I'm in the same boat. I'm watching the game of the last 5 minutes, and I think the crowd are wanting the ball to get into the box, get it in the box. Let's have a fight in there. But it goes against probably all what the boys have been doing in training. They have methods of getting into areas where they can score goals, and that seems to be the way it is. We've been lucky in the past. We weren't last night to get that goal. But, it is frustrating, and I think it's very difficult to get the noise from the crowd in the last 5 minutes, unless the ball is being sort of bombed into the box and in the slow build-up. It's very difficult to get a crowd reaction behind it, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, look, we play a certain way, and that way under Luke has absolutely delivered phenomenal success. It's not being critical of that. I just think someone, I forget who it was now, said to me, was I happy? We got a late winner somewhere, and does that mean we can get promotion? I mean, my view on this would be, if we get more last 5 minute winning goals than Wrexham, we will finish above Wrexham at the end of the season. Wrexham seem to have this little knack of sort of pinching things, bombarding. I think Mark Stellard used the word powerful, which is not always as pleasing on the eye. They don't necessarily dominate teams in terms of possession, but it's just kind of getting that job done. And for 85 minutes, it don't matter whether it's 1-1, you're losing 1-0 or whatever, punch it in those last few minutes. Crowd were well, and I just didn't quite see that last night, irrespective of how we've played for the previous 85. It's not necessarily a criticism, but it felt a little bit flat. I mean, I have to say, thank goodness all four sides of Meadow Lane are covered, Les, because I can't remember watching a game with that much rain. I mean, just before half time, when it was tipping off the end of the cop onto the side of the pitch, I have to say, fair play to the groundsman, because the pitch held up really well, really well.
Well, I used to like playing when it was wet. The ball used to zip across the top of the ground. But that was very different. That last 10 minutes, 15 minutes before half time, that was torrential, and I felt sorry for all the players out there. But great credit to them. You know, the lads came out after half time and they picked themselves up. We got an unusual goal for us, shall I say, where we got a ball delivered far post and a header into the far corner. Great header, by the way. And I did think we'd kick on, and a second goal would come, but unfortunately, it didn't. We have to give credit to Boreham Wood. I did speak with their directors in the boardroom before the game, and they told me that not to expect an easy game. You might have seen our results and found that we've lost a few, but he says we work very hard. We're going to make life difficult for you, and he says we've got difficulty beating teams below us. We have had some great results against teams up at the top, particularly with you. We drew with you early season. We've drawn with Wrexham. I think Chesterfield as well. They were reeling off the results that they've had against the better teams, but they struggle against the teams down at the bottom. No, behind the scenes on the training ground, Luke and the players, that they work hard on putting out formations to deliver good results against whatever the opposition are trying to do. You know, we don't know how Boreham Wood are going to set up when they turn up. We might have watched the last match, but teams are making it difficult. They want to go to Meadow Lane and come away with a result, and it does make life tough. And you've got to be on it to get a result. I didn't think we were quite there last night, but sometimes when it's not there, we lose matches. Probably last year before, we might have lost last night, but we came away with a point from it. Not what everybody wants to see because of Wrexham, but as I say, you would snap anybody's hand off for what the games we've played and the results we've had so far this season.
Andy Eastham says, now is the time to strengthen. Boreham Wood got the measure of us very quickly. One or two players seem to have lost their mojo. Ian Greasby says, Boreham Wood did a good job on us last night. Tough playing conditions. The ball didn't zip around as much, and we weren't playing at our usual level. Long way to go yet, though, and a good unbeaten run. Good evening, says Maggie Grant. Ian Greasby says, would have liked to have seen O'Brien introduced at the break. Bostock, a good player, but seemed to restrict Palmer's influence, and O'Brien would have provided a more attacking focus. Chris B, as soon as we scored, the tempo with which we started the second half dropped back to what we were doing first half. I think personally, although he's not played badly, Bostock's style doesn't necessarily fit us. Chris Gosling, we have Frank Vincent back and Matt Sharp Vinny at that. Do you think there's a place for him in the last 16 in the coming weeks? Because if he doesn't get in now, will he ever? Andy Isamad's disappointed to see Kevin Castro go back. There's at least one vacancy in the squad. Poor Northants Pie, Wrexham lump it, and that will to some degree cause more panic in the last couple of minutes of a game. Chris Gosling says, Bostock and Palmer are fine if you want to see out a game you are leading, but doesn't look like it's a partnership for setting a high tempo in a game. James Shipley, I don't think Bostock and Palmer can play together, just two similar styles for me, albeit different in stature. When Bostock signed, I expected them to be in rotation. Derek Flowers says, does the pressure of playing at home affect the players? We don't have the same pressure away, just a thought. Chris B, I don't think Bostock and Palmer are very similar. Palmer is a busy player. He moves constantly. Bostock seems to like staying in one place and dictating from there. And Shane Walker adds, Chicks is not up to speed yet after his injury. Keep the comments coming in. Les, as the club's record goal scorer, you are probably uniquely positioned or more expertly positioned than just about anyone to be running the rule over Mr. Langstaff, and for that matter, Kedwin Scott. One thing I thought was interesting last night was, if you remember at 0-0, ball slid in, McCall is clear of the last man, is racing in on a one-on-one. And a bit like everyone was telling me that they never fancied Harry Kane to score the second penalty against France. As Maka was running through, and I kind of thought the defender won't catch him, I really didn't fancy him to score, which is unusual when you got the most, the non-league Erling Haaland, and you kind of have a bit of a view or a theory or a thought on that, yeah.
Yeah, I've watched Maka quite a lot this season, and he seems to be more positive when he's working from the right-hand side of the pitch, coming in. The ball on his right foot, he can slot it in, he can bang it in, he can take it round the goalkeeper. I think last night when he broke away, the ball was down the left-hand side. He was on the left-hand side, and I don't think he was quite sure really what he was going to do, whether he was going to go around him, whether he was going to shoot, lob him. I'm not quite sure. And he went to put the ball past the keeper, and it got blocked, didn't it? So, yeah, you would have thought he would have gone on and scored from that position, but unfortunately, it wasn't to be last night.
Okay, so as the club's record scorer, run the rule over Macaulay. I mean, what do you like about him? What do you see in him? Clearly, there's levels, but at this level, he has looked, a cut above just about everything else in this division.
What I like about him, and I've had several conversations, was, and in particular the last one, where he told me that as well as the work that goes on the training ground, he's very much into the work, non-physical, studying videos, working with the manager and Ryan, the head coach, on getting into positions where the ball may come, hopefully, and he can stick the ball in. He told me, I think he got 18 goals. He told me that he'd scored 6 goals this season that he wouldn't have scored last year because he wouldn't have been in that position. It's something that they work at constantly, and I've got a lot of time for him because of that. He and Chedwin, they room together. They're constantly thinking about how they can score goals for the club, and he's taken a lot of criticism. I've seen on social media. John Bostock last night. I think the manager tried to change things a little. I think he wanted John to play a little bit deeper and push Matty up to see whether he can lock defences with his passing. But John, he floated that ball to the far post for Sedwin to nod in the corner. Great goal, So we saw something a little bit different there, maybe that we wouldn't see under normal circumstances. So the lads are working. I love it down there at the moment. They are. I'm proud to say they're all part of Notts County. They've got the desire to win things for the club, for the supporters. The manager wants that, and they're all working in harmony. And I don't think we can ask for anything more. We're going to get results like that. That happens anywhere. Last night, but virtually all the games I've seen this season, we have been the better team. Even at Dorking, that 3-1 defeat there was a knockback. But their manager was embarrassed to say that they would after the game. But no, I'm very, very happy to watch Notts County play every match in, match out. I think they're doing fantastic this season, and I love the way that they're playing.
A good question from Northants Pie. Yes, Les, how many goals do you think Macaulay will get this season? What do you think he's capable of scoring this season?
Well, every match we watch him, he creates a chance for himself, at least. So he could score a goal every game. That isn't going to happen. In fact, I've talked to a coach that's been down watching him, and he's saying he's not the player that I'm looking for, that I've been asked to come and look at. He doesn't fit the bill as a strong striker that's probably going to win you a lot of balls on the far post. So, although he's scoring goals, he doesn't fit everybody's game plan, shall we say. But he will make a chance for himself in every game, at least. He's 30 odd goals last season. He's got 20 odd this season. Let's hope he stays clear of injury, because that's another downside. There will be players, there will be teams that will look to try and eliminate him from the game in whatever way they can, because that's what he does. He loves scoring goals. Long may it continue.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I think someone struck 40, didn't they? The ex-Dover guy a few years ago. I don't think anyone's done that since. I guess for us to be challenging and pushing Wrexham for the top spot, you'd be looking for him to get 30, wouldn't you, again this season, Les? Or we'd need him to, wouldn't we, to finish where
we've seen times when he scored in a lot of games, but when he doesn't score, we've been fortunate that other players. I mean, nobody's mentioned Scott. How many goals has Scott scored this season? On a normal season, halfway through, scoring, is it 12, 13 goals? You're going to say, well, he's having a great season. He doesn't get a mention.
Yeah, well, we can talk about him now. He's a closer type of striker to you than Macaulay is, isn't he? He's a strong guy, decent in the air.
Yeah, the game's moved on. It's played differently than from the times that I played. Throughout my days, there was always two up front, and one on the far post.
About that in a minute as well. Yeah,
one on the far post, one on the near post. If any ball was going to be crossed when it went out to the wide men, they weren't told to pick anybody out. They were told to get the ball in. You drill it to the near post, or you hang it up to the far post. And it was up to the two strikers to make sure they were on the end of that. Otherwise, our manager, Jimmy Searle, will be telling you he's finding somebody else to play your role. That's the way it was in those days. And the game's moved on now, and tactics are different. The game is being played differently. It's more possession game. It's more intricate. So I appreciate that. I'm sure if in the days that Mac would have been playing, he would have been playing off a big far post player like myself, looking to get the balls up from the nod downs, and he'd still be bagging the goals even in those days. So it's not too much different. If you're a goal scorer, you're a goal scorer.
John Hall says, I've been watching Notts since 1958, and I really enjoy seeing this current side. Chris Gosling says, I think Kedwin could easily finish much closer to Macca's tally. Had he been fully fit at the start of the season and more game time, he wouldn't be that far away from him now. James Shipley says, it's great to have such a good front partnership again at Notts. For me, Macca is the more lethal finisher, but Scott is a more complete forward. Chris Gosling says, I agree, James.
What we mustn't
sorry, go on, Les.
What we mustn't forget as well, when we're talking about them as strikers, I just love watching the pair of them playing together when we lose the ball. How they chase down defenders. They don't give centre-halves time to stroll around, passing the ball around. They put them under so much pressure, which enables us to get the ball back much quicker. Must never underestimate that work that they're doing, the pair of them. I love to watch it. When we've lost the ball, you watch them, how they chase and really close down on the goalkeepers, on the centre-halves, and I just think it's wonderful how quick we get the ball back again.
In your era, Les, strikers, as you've mentioned, near post, far post, virtually always, they hunted in pairs, yeah? And sole striker, whatever you want to call it, lone striker, false nine, is a relatively modern development. And I think everybody thought that Kedwin... and Macca would be an automatic front two all the time this season. Now, it's not been like that. Both have played up top together the last two games, but there's been quite a few games, probably up to 50% of the games, when they haven't played together as a striking pair. What's your take on that? Do you still like to see particularly given these two capabilities, strikers hunting pairs, or is it such now the way Luke will shuffle his pack? He's not always going to play two strikers in a game.
I'm sure that's Luke's reasoning. He doesn't want to play against any team where they know what formation is, which players are going to be there, and what formation we're playing. I think they work very hard on the training ground with different personnel playing different formations. I mean, I would have thought Oldham would have been shocked after getting beat 4-1 to see the changes that were made in the game a few days later. But that's the way it is. That's the way Luke does it, and we can't knock it with the results that we're getting. It's produced some fantastic results this year.
Northampton saying, have you seen many better forward partnerships at Notts given their range of goals? At the level at which we are playing, and the goals they scored, firstly for Gateshead National League North last season, and so far this season, it's a quite phenomenal goals return that they're both producing, isn't it? Having effectively been together for 18 months. I forget what the stat is, but it's a phenomenal number between them.
Yeah, and they're very, very much into wanting to get better. As I say, they live together down here in Nottingham, and I know that they talk nothing but football when they leave the ground, and so they're wanting to score goals. They're wanting to score for Notts County. They want to get better, and I just the two great lads, and I'm proud that they're playing for Notts County.
Chris Gosling says Fowler and Jones, the closest I've seen Northants. That was a title-winning partnership. I think for a season, and this brings us on to Mr. Hughes. Lee Hughes played very well with Luke Rogers as well, if I remember right, for a season as well. But on the subject of goal scoring centre forwards, you've got Lee coming back on Sunday, haven't you, for the trophy tie against Maidstone? He's not bringing his boots. Harley Hughes Jr. maybe, which you can explain in a minute, as part of this big mega bucks deal you've struck with him to come back and entertain our corporate clients on Sunday.
Yeah, I get in touch with some of the old legends from Notts County to come along in hospitality and pass on their memories to the hospitality guests. And on Sunday, I've been pestering Lee for quite a while, but he, as everybody knows, he's a massive West Brom fan, and he likes to get down to the Hawthorns and watch the games down there. So it's been difficult to get him to come along. He was going to come to the was it the Oval game or the Barnet game? I'm not sure now, but that
got called off, wasn't it?
He got called off, yeah. And so last week he says, I've seen this fixture on the Sunday, I can make it. Can I come? So I went, we'd love to see you there. He says, well, I'll come on one condition, that my lad Harley can go on the pitch at half time and bang that ball in the net. He got the cop singing "Let's All Do the Hughesy," so it went down really well. Unfortunately, the cops are not going to be open on Sunday for the game, but I think we're expecting 2,000-3,000 down there. I'm sure the fans will get behind him if he can bang the ball in the net, and I'm pretty sure Lee will be out there doing the Hughesy dance as well that we can all remember.
Yes, very much so. Northampton Pie says, I liked Heffernan and Allsop. Yeah, they got a lot of goals between them as well. So, I mean, Les, we all know because of Wrexham, and let's not forget Chesterfield for that matter either. The bar is being set so high this year, isn't it? And with only one place. You would probably think at the minute you need to be hitting 3-figure points, 100 points more to be in with a chance of that top spot. And I guess it's strange that we've lost one game all season. We draw against a pretty decent team. Boreham Wood are good operators, and I think Luke Luke Garrard's very crafty as well. He's come out, praised Notts County to the heavens, hasn't he? It's a harder game than Accrington. Notts are the best team I've seen. And from Luke having had a pop at us for whatever it was a while ago, we all think, our fan base is always useless. Now, yeah, he's a great manager. And I think he was very clever the way he managed all of that last night.
Yeah.
But we're in quite a unique scenario whereby drawing a game, you kind of feel so deflated because inevitably, if we don't win, Wrexham do.
Yeah. And I think I have to say that Wrexham are finding ways. We talked about it. I know you worked at Leicester with Martin O'Neill, and Martin was one. Or you have to find a way to win, and Wrexham have been able to do that successfully this year. Let's hope it get a bit of a wobble on, but we've done tremendous, and we have drawn 8 matches now, and I would say that probably 4 or 5 of those games that we could have got the extra 2 points if we could have just found that extra bit of whatever it is that just pushes you over the line with that desire to win. Going back to last night, I think probably from that last 5 minutes, if we could have drummed up a little bit more in and around the box that got the crowd lifted, and maybe that's the sort of thing that's needed to add to the passing game that gets everybody up, and maybe a goal comes from it. I don't know, but I can't think of any game. The closest one possibly for me was the Wrexham game, where we might have lost. All the other games, I think we could have won. Even Chesterfield going 2-0 down, we fought back, and looked like there was only going to be one winner there, but it didn't quite happen, did it? At Dorking, the one that we've lost, we still can't work out how we lost that game. We've had a fantastic season, and it's credit to Luke and Ryan and all the players. That they've got to take credit for warming to what Luke has come in and put across to the lads. They've all warmed to it. We've had a few injuries here and there, and he's protected a few players. That's why they've been rested and not played like twice a week. Whether we're going to bring any more in now in this month, I don't know. We've lost Castro now. He was a bit unique in that he offered something different with his right foot. He could bang that ball in the net.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
and that's what he's looking for. I know Luke is looking for some players that are a little bit different to what we've got, so they can change the way things are going. And if Castro had been with us, I'm sure he'd have gone on last night just to try and, but he isn't, and that's where we are. But there's no negatives from me. I think we're having a fantastic season. There's still 20 matches, give or take, to go, and a lot of points to play for still.
ZO says, did feel some of the players looked a little tired last night. Number of matches, playing on a heavy ground, or maybe left a bit too much on the training ground. Perhaps time to be kind on a few of the regular 11. James Shipley says, it's advantage Wrexham currently because of the games in hand, but there is a lot of football to play. I expect it to swing again. The season is going to go all the way to the wire. Chris Gosling, due to cup matches, Wrexham's 2 games in hand to rearrange are Chesterfield and Woking, I believe. Not the fixtures you want when you're chasing points. But fair play to them, they are on it at the minute. Northampton says points over games in hand for me. ZO did feel a number of players looked tired last night. Do you think it's time for some quality reinforcements? Nick G, can't recall the last time we scored from a corner. Short corners don't seem to be working. Are we lacking height in and around the box. Nigel Cameron, hopefully, he says, a couple of quality additions in the pipeline. Craig Simmons, any grounds to the Williams to Portsmouth rumour, do we think? I'll come on to that next, Craig. Chris Gosling, we need something to spark us down the left side of the pitch. We are so reliant on breaking down the right. Teams are working it out. Luke Williams, been linked with Portsmouth. It reminds. It does in a way. If we think back to when we were looking to replace Ian Birchall in the summer, I think you know the guys, Les. It was at the Notts Golf Day, and there was some guy, Danish guy, that had, I don't know, been sacked by someone in the Faroe Isles, and he became odds-on favourite to be Notts manager, and it transpired because the two lads that it was two Notts lads that rung a bookies up, asked for the odds for Kim Egström, and asked to put a tenner on. And I know this because they were at the golf day and they were telling me about the story and that it was them. So what that tells you is how very, very easily these bookmaking markets for managers can be manipulated. Now, as I understand this, the Portsmouth News, which is the local newspaper in the way that the Post would be for Nottingham, has kind of done a runners and riders chart, for all the potential candidates for Portsmouth. Now, as a local journalist, which I was in the Jurassic era on the Peterborough Evening Telegraph, the first thing you do is you come up with you look down and think of as many managers as you possibly can. So you try and cover all bases, and then you make a case for all of them. And then you get the local bookmaker to price the odds up for you. And this, as far as I am aware, is what's happened at Portsmouth. So what I'm saying is there is no qualified intel on approaches made to Luke, approaches made to Notts. And I do think listening, screwing back to the car to listen to Luke's interview at the end of the game last night, and clearly Charlie asked the right questions about that speculation, and I thought it was fairly unequivocal. You leave a door open clearly, but I thought it was fairly unequivocal that he had unfinished business at Notts, and that he wanted to see this job through. Luke doesn't have a promotion as a manager on his CV at the minute. They're not easy to get, and clearly he has a fantastic opportunity to get it. And I think that I'll choose my words carefully. I won't expect Les to comment on this. I think Ian Birchnall was very focused on performances rather than results, and I'm not fundamentally sure that he's comfortable chasing promotions and things like that. I think he's quite purist. So I think when Forest Green wanted Ian, I think it was a no-brainer for him. Clearly, he wouldn't be expected to get Forest Green promoted this season. Staying up would be viewed as a success story, and it's 2 divisions higher. I think Luke has got a bit more about him in the sense of wanting a promotion on his CV and wanting to fulfill something. So, famous last words, I would not be concerned about the vacancy at Portsmouth and potential implications for Luke. Les, you obviously still do bits and pieces with the club, so it's a little bit more difficult for you. But I think it is your view that Luke will, a huge amount of why we've been so successful this season and taken it on a step or two is down to Luke Williams and what he's done with Ryan this season.
100%. I know a lot of work went on behind the scenes when Ian left, and it was nearly 4 weeks before we appointed a manager. We got Luke. I know various managers, head coaches were interviewed, but I do know that Luke certainly attracted people that were looking for the new manager, and several conversations were had, and he was the outstanding candidate to take the job on, because of the philosophy of the owners for the club, how they wanted Notts County to develop, not just this season, but for seasons to come. And I think since he's come in, the players have warmed to him. They've warmed to his training, not just the physical side, the non-physical side, all of the discussions that have to improve. And I have to say that probably I've never experienced all my years in football. You generally get a moan and groan from players who think they should be in the team or not. I don't hear that down there now. I go down and players who are subs, they're all in the spirit. There's nobody moaning and groaning. I don't hear it, and it's just that's got to be the manager and his assistant that has created that platform. I think every player in the squad thinks that they could be playing the next match, and he's willing to give anybody a go that has worked for it. You don't. He doesn't just pick somebody like we're playing on Sunday. It's a cup game. People won't just get picked just for the sake of getting picked. It's a cup game that probably in some people's eyes doesn't matter. He will be picking players that have earned the right to play. And they may be regulars, they may be lads on the fringe. And I think it's just created a wonderful atmosphere down there, to be honest. It's just a lovely place to go to work. And he has to take tremendous credit for all what he's done behind the scenes, working with the players and the backroom team as well. And obviously, people that come along to hospitality, they're hearing him talking about the team, why he's making the changes, or what's gone on the week. He's keeping everybody informed. He's not hiding anything. And I think he's after match interviews. He's pretty honest with what has gone on. He does. I mean, he won't go down to calling players, but he certainly say when things aren't quite right. And I think people are warming to that as well.
Some more comments. James Shipley says the likes of Williams and Langstaff will get linked to every club and their dog, to be expected when you're doing something outstanding. Yeah, absolutely right, James. Z.O. Chris G. Agree, most of our positive moves come down the right side. Chicks is a great guy who gives 100%, but he struggles to beat a man, and maybe he's overperformed thus far. Chris Gosling. Luke did say in September that Chick was a bit fatigued. He's been brilliant, but there is no one to stand in for him. He's not even popping up in the far post in recent weeks where he bagged his goals. Northants Pie said, what did I think to Ryan Harley's responses in his pre-game interview? It was funny listening to it, as most managers are more open with their answers. I'm afraid I've not heard any of them, actually, so let me know a bit more. But no, I've not heard any of those from Ryan. Chris Gosling, I did the stadium tour with Les over Christmas, and thank you, Les, for a great time. My kids loved it, and meeting a few players that day, the great team spirit came across loud and clear. There you are, satisfied customer, Les. Unlike Basil Fogg, you would say a satisfied customer, we should get him stuffed.
It's lovely on the Thursday afternoon. We do the tours, and it's not a day that the players are usually working. But if the match schedule has changed, then they're in sometimes, and those people on the tour, they get the chance to meet them. And like Chris has just said, it comes across abundantly what a lovely place it is, and how keen the players are to talk with supporters and share stories with them. It's wonderful.
Okay, on to Maidstone FA Trophy, and you kind of just you alluded to this a little bit earlier. Let's just confirm to everyone: this is a Sunday kickoff, 3:00, not Saturday. Fixture class. It was our turn to move from the Saturday because Forest are at home, so it's Sunday 3:00. Let's just get that one right. I did read somewhere that Phil Parkinson has already said he's going to make 11 changes from Wrexham's winning team last night. Interestingly, for the previous round, Luke fielded a a stronger team for the trophy game than he had for the previous FA Cup tie. Sorry to bring it up, everyone, just as you're getting over it, against Colville, which didn't end too well. What sort of would you, if you were manager, Les, would you be making wholesale changes? Would you be still going with the strongest team? How would you categorise the trophy in the context of the promotion running for the National League?
Luke has categorised it very high on the agenda. He got asked the question in hospitality a couple of matches ago, not by me, by Neil. It was for the first game against Chorley in the trophy, and he said he wanted to win. He wants to get to Wembley in the trophy, and he's playing a strong side. And I think Neil's response was, "Why didn't you do that in the FA Cup?" And he said, "Because we got no chance of winning that, but with the trophy, we've got a great chance of getting to Wembley and winning it." Interesting.
Very.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you agree with him?
Top of the agenda will be the league. He'll be assessing all the players, who needs games, who doesn't need games, those that want to play. But he will want to put a team out that wins on Sunday, in my view.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think I went on record last round as saying I will play the under-19s. Sling them all in.
Well, I don't think for 1 minute when he selected the team against Colville, he thought that they were going to perform like they did. I think he thought he'd picked a team that could win the game. They didn't go down that route, but I think there will be a strong side. We're playing against a team that's in the same league. We've already played
absolutely.
them,
Surely we're a division below. Yeah.
He'll want to be competitive. There is no midweek game next week, is there? So
that's right. No midweek.
We got a full week. So I think there'll be a very strong team out there.
Chris Gosling asked, is Tiernan Brooks cup tied? I don't think we could change 11 players if we wanted to. Because effectively now Tiernan is our number 2 goalkeeper. He's been recalled from loan. I don't know whether he played for Hednesford or not, in answer to your question, Chris. I tell you what, though, Les, for me, I would have said Sam Slocum was about our best player last night, particularly first half. The number of times he had to scamper out of the 18-yard box and clear with strikers bearing down on him. And it's interesting, because Sam polarises is perhaps a strong word. But I think generationally, when you're a Notts fan, if you're a younger fan, you kind of eulogise about Patterson and want that younger guy that's better with his feet. And then I think middle age onwards, you focus on these for a goalkeeper, don't you?
Yeah.
And I thought Sam was really good last night because he came out a couple of times and cleared balls when we were in a lot of trouble.
He was my man of the match last night.
We've not rehearsed that, by the way.
Yeah. There was on certainly 2 occasions I thought they were going to score, and he managed to get a hand on it and block it. Yeah.
I thought he did very well.
Really well.
Royston, do you think Notts have peaked too soon and are now feeling the pressure? No. James Shipley, we should go strong at the trophy and play to win it, but use the full extent of the squad in the process. Now, you should know this, Les. I don't know how quickly anybody will be able to jump on this. There is a link between Notts County and Maidstone. Former Notts player, one of your era, Leslie, I think managed Maidstone. Anyone? Quickly, before Les tells us who it is? I think you know.
I ain't going to be able to tell you. I know the era that you're talking about, and I'm trying to think hard of that player, but it's gone.
I'm pretty sure. I think I'm right. I think he played and managed for them. Anyone? No? Looks like we've stumped everybody here. I'll read out a couple more while we're waiting. Eastleigh played Braintree Saturday. Fifth round clash with Eastleigh at home on February 11th. If we lose, well, I'm going to be optimist. It could well leave a free week that weekend, so may as well go another round. Okay, so that's from a fixture pile-up or non-pile-up. Northampton, doesn't Regan Booty play there? He went down there, so you have got a Notts and Maidstone connection. And yeah, I was going to bring this up in a bit. What I'm still working at. Les, as well as the cuckoo clock, has now worked out how to read the messages on here as well. So I think he's clocked it as well. Derek Flower says, who picked the man of the match? Roy Orbison. Now, I think me and Les would have gone for Mr. Slogan. Clearly, the sponsors, Leslie, wanted to meet a certain Portuguese player who had already been substituted. By the time the Tannoy announcer read out Ruben Rodriguez as man of the match.
Well, it was a shock to me sitting there watching. I thought, in fact, I was trying to think who was going to get man of the match, and for me, it was Sam Slocum. But obviously, Ruben came out. But you might be right in what you say in your theory of probably he wants to introduce him to his son.
Okay, it looks like no. I thought someone would get this, unless I've got this completely wrong. So Les is a teammate of yours from the 70s, the early 70s,
and he played for Maidstone.
Went on to Maidstone towards the back end of his career.
Teammate. Well, it's gone.
Barry Watling.
Barry Watling. Well, I didn't know he'd gone there. I was talking to him a couple of weeks ago as well.
Now, Barry was famous, wasn't he? We all talk about Emi Martinez and the Argentine goalkeeper for saving penalties. Now, Barry was the goalkeeper for Notts in the 4th Division title-winning season, 1970-71. He was only about 5'8", 5'9", which was, even in those days, was very small for a keeper. He was a very good penalty saver, wasn't he, Les?
I'm not sure whether it was 5 or 7 consecutive, but he was in the Guinness Book of Records as saving the most penalties consecutively. It was either 5 or 7, but towards the end of that season, it was beaten by the Ipswich goalkeeper,
Paul
Cooper, yeah, which upset Barry quite a lot.
yeah.
But Barry, when he left Notts, he went to Hartlepool, if my memory serves me right.
That's right. He had a stint in the North American Soccer League with Seattle as well.
Right.
Yeah. I did an interview. I've not used it yet, but when I do a bit of another reversion of the book at some point, and he was telling me about the penalties, because obviously in those days no games were on the telly, so he could basically do no homework. It's not like you kind of know where a penalty taker's going to hit it, which you kind of do now, because every penalty's on the telly, isn't it, all the way down? In those days, Notts County in the 4th Division were never. Well, I think might have been on the telly once or twice, but yeah. So to save 5 or 6 penalties on the bounce in them days was quite some achievement.
Yeah, and just interesting. We're talking about different techniques with players in the days that he played for Notts and that championship winning team. He was told not to come out of the 6-yard box, that Brian Stubbs and David Needham would win every header outside of the box, but that was his area, the 6-yard box. He had to catch everything in there, and it worked.
Yeah, it was. It's a bigger area they are expected to cover now. Northampton adds, Les, who was the best keeper? We had some good ones, to be fair. Who was the best keeper you played with at Notts?
Well, obviously Barry is up there because of that season. Roy Brown was very athletic and did a fantastic job for us. So it's a toss-up between those two for me. Eric McManus, towards the end of my career, Eric came in and he did a great job. We're very fortunate to play with some very, very good goalkeepers, but there hasn't been a shortage after I finished. You could reel them off, can't you? And I mean, Raddy in most people's eyes is the number one, isn't he? He came in and
For me.
he, you know, if he played at the top level, didn't he?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's never been a shortage of good goalkeepers at Notts, has there?
But we've had a few.
Well, it slowly starts. I mean, when I first came to Meadow Lane, some of the old guys there, they used to reel off the players, and they talked about Albert Ironmonger.
Ironmonger Road, yeah, named after him.
One of the stories, and it's always amused me, this story, was that when he defended the Meadow Lane goal, there was a pigeon that used to come down and drop on the crossbar, and whichever half it was, whether it was the first or the second half, he would walk to that goal with some bread, and he would feed the pigeon, while the game was going on.
What a great story!
Yeah, I've got told that, and told several times that it was true. But yeah, some wonderful stories.
I think that there is a relative of Albert, isn't there? Who I think are still Notts County season ticket holders. It's sort of someone of his lineage who are still season ticket holders. I believe.
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Northants Pie. My dad said Avramovich was special, and he's a Forest fan. Yeah, Raddy was top draw for me. Top draw. Of the ones in your era, Les, and obviously I was only a young lad at the time, I would have possibly gone for Eric McManus. I thought Eric did very well. And of course he ended up, although he didn't play in the top flight for Notts, I always remember the game because he got a move to Stoke. And he played against us for Stoke in the last game of our first season back in the top flight. Dave Watson played as well for Stoke that day. It's when Pedro scored. And Pedro scored in about the 89th minute, and that was the point. It was a 2. I always remember the game. It was a 2-2 draw, which meant we guaranteed safety in the top flight in our first season back. And Eric was in goal for Stoke that day.
Yeah. I think, you know, your memories take you back to the success, doesn't it? When you win leagues, they're all your greatest players, aren't they? When you've gone a season and you've finished top of the league, it's very difficult to forget any of those players. So, you know, Barry Watling will always be high up there, and then following him, Roy Brown, when we got promotion into the up to the second division. As I say, I wasn't around the club when they got into the top league, but certainly I remember Raddy and the games that he played in that season. So he'd be very high on the list of players that were part of that team.
Remy Sky is dining in from New York. It's so humbling and awe-inspiring to be here with the great man, the legend, Master Brad. And he gives felicitations to us. He's a big Notts fan, courtesy of his father, I believe, Les, who was a Juventus fan. It's quite interesting tale. So I think Remy's coming over later in the year to Notts at some point. I'm sure you may well meet him. You'll have to give him one of your tours, Leslie. We haven't got many Notts fans in New York, have we? Derek Flowers says, best keeper, Steve Cherry, just for the Manchester City game. Northants Pie, Darren Ward, very good keeper, is the best I've seen at Notts. John Hall, Eric McManus was the best I saw. So it's quite a cross-section, but it kind of just proves the point, Les, that we've had some very good keepers down the years. Very important. Key position. And you don't normally win much unless you've got a good goalkeeper.
Absolutely.
But anyway, we're coming up to the hour mark. I think that kind of wraps it up. Oh, I just want to put to bed Jim O'Brien. So Jim posted on LinkedIn, which is kind of like a business Facebook for those of you who aren't familiar with it. So he posted on, what day is it, Wednesday, Monday afternoon, to say he'd got a new job. That's what you do, you know. He got a new job. Sheffield United, coaching some sort of youth age group. Hey, Les's cuckoo clock. Nothing changes, folks. There it was. The cuckoo clock tells us we've done the hour. Anyway, and I forgot what I was talking about now. The cuckoo clock is
Jim O'Brien.
Jim O'Brien. So Jim's posted, and it comes up as new job. youth coach, Sheffield United. And so, of course, quite a few people have put two and two. Because, retiring from Notts County and all the rest of it, when you're leaving. I spoke to Notts this afternoon. So, look, it is a part-time role. Jim's got his coaching badges. He's looking to go into coaching. So this is not the under-18s training them 10 times a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday mornings. This is a small section of coaching for young kids, in 1 or 2 evenings. Okay, this does not affect his professional contract with Notts County, his commitment to Notts, his training schedules with Notts County. So he's full-time at Notts still. So I know 1 or 2 people just thought, oh blimey, what's happening with Jim, and Jim didn't play last night and all of these things. So don't worry, Jim is well and truly Notts County through and through, and nothing has changed. Great point from Terry Taylor. I always maintain this. I think you would have been in this one, Les. Terry Taylor saw Eric McManus play against Derby. I can't remember if it was FA Cup or League Club. Could have been 34-0 at half time. Derby had just won the league title or something. And I do remember that, Terry. I was about 10 or 11. And that is probably the greatest 90 minutes I have ever seen by a Notts County goalkeeper. Do you remember that one, Les?
I wasn't at the club then.
Okay.
But I was at the match, and he was unbelievable that night. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just for a 90-minute goalkeeping performance, the like of which you will struggle to see again. Yeah, a one-man team. Yeah, Terry's not even exaggerating when he says it could have been 34-0 at half time. Right. Okay. So if you want to see Lee Hughes and ask a few questions, have a chat with him, Les, I am guessing there would still be a few slots available for hospitality on Sunday. Yeah, contact the club.
I'm not sure. I didn't get an update last night. So if anybody's interested, I'm sure if they ring in tomorrow, we'll be able to accommodate them. Yeah.
Absolutely. Simon Blair throws another keeper into the mix, and he's operating in, is it the Championship with Millwall still? Simon Blair, in more recent years, I thought very highly of Bart Bielkowski. Very good one, Simon. Very good one. They are. Goalkeepers, centre forwards. We've discussed all of those tonight. Thank you for joining us. We will be back next Monday after the FA Trophy game, Maidstone, 3 o'clock. We'll also be putting online middle of next week the interview that we have done with John Bostock, which is, I have to say, top draw. You get a mention, Les. You get a mention. He said it was great to meet the legend, and I think he took a photo of the two of you together, didn't it, and put it on his social media feed.
Well, I bumped into him in the reception and introduced myself, and he sort of ignored me and shot off. And then the next news, he was there with a camera, and he said, "I've heard so much about you. I'd like to have a photograph." And for 10 minutes, we just never stopped talking. And what a lovely, lovely man. I got a lot of time for John.
Yeah, I thought he was top draw. And what a little sneak preview of it. Aside from, he turned down a 10-year contract with Barcelona, despite Ronaldinho sending him a personal message to try to get him to sign when he was 14 years old. There's a good one for you. But he said to me that he has never, ever played in all his career in the way that Luke Williams is trying to play football at Notts. And he also said he's never been at a club where all the players are so much on the same page, and there is total clarity in how we're expected to play, what we're expected to play. Everybody knows their roles. And he said he's never experienced anything quite like that before, which kind of ties in with what you were saying as well earlier, Les. But it's a great interview, and that we'll be posting that next week. So thank you very much indeed, as always. Leslie, thank you very much.
Thanks, Paul. My pleasure.
And thank you to one and all for your contributions this evening, and look forward to catching up again next week. Good night for now.